Welcome to Blended Scotch Reviews for episode number 20. Today, July 9th, 2025, we have Scotch Match number 5. What we are doing is studying the basic blended Scotch whiskies that the professional whiskey nerds love to hate. And after reviewing them individually, I pair them up for a head-to-head competition to see which ones I like the best. Tonight, we have Ballantine's Finest versus Dewar's French Cask. Rules. This is a blind comparison, so I'm using my blacked out glasses that I have mixed up. On the bottom of each glass is either a number 1 for Ballantine's or a number 2 for Dewar's. While I will study and evaluate the history of each whiskey and the bottle, label, marketing, and composition and the nose, really the contest is to be decided by the mouthfeel, the taste, the burn, the finish. Basically, if I was offered these two whiskeys 5 nights in a row and could only choose one, which one would I choose 3 out of those 5 nights? And in case of a tie, and that has happened, the match will be decided by the price, value, and availability rating that I have given them. As a part of the fun, I do try to guess which whiskey is in which glass at the end, and then also there's the winner may get a cocktail. So first, let's look at Ballantine's Finest. When George Ballantine was 13 years old, he began an apprenticeship in the grocery business in Edinburgh in 1827. He really didn't want to become a farmer like his father, and he stayed as an apprentice until he was 18, and then he got set up in business on his own, and his business prospered. And back then, it seems like all the grocers dealt in spirits and wine and ended up making their own blends. His blended whiskey became very popular, eventually earning a royal warrant, which you see on the bottle there, from Queen Victoria. It has won many awards and is the most popular Scotch whiskey in Europe. Currently, it is produced by Chivas Brothers, and they are in turn owned by Pernod Ricard. Dewar's French Cask. Founded in 1846 in Perth, Scotland by John Dewar, who lived 1805 to 1880, he was also a merchant selling wines and spirits. His sons, John Alexander, 1856 to 1929, and Tommy, 1864 to 1930, helped him grow his business. Now, if you did the math there, you realize that these dates, coming from the Dewar's website, point to the fact that Alexander was born when John was 51, and Tommy was born when John was 59. Good for him. John Alexander Dewar became the brains of the company. Quoting from the website, in 1880, John Dewar handed the business over to his sons. But again, if you do the math, that's the year of his death. And so, in 1890, A.J. Cameron was brought on board as the master blender. In 1891, at the invitation of Andrew Carnegie, Tommy Dewar sent a cask of their whiskey to President Benjamin Harrison in Washington, D.C. Benjamin Harrison was the grandson of President William Henry Harrison, the hero of the Battle of Tippecanoe, which caused a controversy because American distillers objected to a foreign whiskey being in the White House. Tommy Dewar went on a round-the-globe journey where he established a sales force in several countries, including America. And while in New York in 1892, it is said that he created the highball cocktail with his whiskey. In 1893, Queen Victoria gave Dewar's a royal warrant, the first blended Scotch whiskey to be so rewarded. You can see this on the label. The Dewar family built Aberfeldy Distillery in 1898 in Highland, Perthshire on the River Tay, which had gold in it. And they created the first motion picture advertisement for whiskey in 1898. Dewar's White was created by Master Blender Cameron in 1899, and the current Master Blender, 7th in their history, is Stephanie McLeod, working there since 1998. This edition is part of their Cask Finished series and was released in October of 2022. So for history between the two whiskeys, I'm going to give advantage to Dewar's for the win. But when it comes to bottle, label, and marketing, I'm a sucker for colored glass. I think Ballantines has the better label, the better bottle. Their royal warrant there in bold at the top of the bottle. So, yeah, bottle, label, and marketing, and plus they're #1 in Europe. Yeah, that's going to go to Ballantines. Price, value, and availability, though. While the Dewar's is about $8 or $9 more expensive, coming in just below $30, the 750 milliliter bottle is available at 2 stores locally here in Fort Worth where I shop, but the Ballantines is only available in 750 milliliters at 1 store. And for the value, I think even at the higher price, Dewar's is still the better value. So it's Dewar's French Cask for the win. So price, value, and availability right here, the Dewar's. And so if there's a tie, that'll be the tiebreaker. All right, let's get to the whiskeys themselves. First, we will nose, and I'm going to start left to right. This is a very faint nose, and my nose is inadequate for the task. I'm not getting much of anything other than a vague whiskey smell. The one on the right. Not anything any better, really. Perhaps maybe just a little bit of fruit, but I'm not positive. So I'm going to call the nosing a tie. So now let's go to the taste, and we'll start here on the left. And again, if you see the #1 on the bottom, it's Ballantines, and #2 is Dewar's. That is a pleasant taste. None of the whiskeys that I've encountered in this competition have been bad. There's really nothing that stands out here, though, on the taste. Kind of a vague Scotch sense. When I did the review of Ballantines, I mentioned that I really couldn't find any peat smoke in there. So I'm not sure if this is the Ballantine. I think this may be glass #1. This may be Ballantines. We'll see. I kind of think that was the Ballantines, but not 100% positive. All right, the glass on my right. Wow. This is going to be harder than I thought. I thought I'd be able to pick up the Dewar's easily because the Dewar's French oak is aged in apple brandy casks, and so there should be a hint of apple. Wow. I am really not sure what I'm drinking there. On several occasions on these competitions, I have guessed the wrong whiskey. And so I really am confused on this one as well. All right, go back to the one on the left. The mouthfeel, burn, and finish on both of these, again, is about a tie. But the tasting, I am just really having difficulty tasting anything definite. Let alone picking a winner. Or figuring out which is which. I think this is the winner. And I think it may be the Dewars. I might be getting just a hint of apple in there, particularly on the finish. But man, I'm telling you, this is way harder than I thought it would be. I thought I would be able to figure this out right away. So I'm going to give the win to the one on the right. And I think that it's the Dewars, but I'm just not sure. So here we go, probably to embarrass myself once again. The one on the right is glass number 2, Dewars. There you go. One on the left is, in fact, Ballantine's. So I was able to choose a winner, but barely. And I guessed correctly. But again, it was so close, and that surprises me. Okay, like on my J&B Rare versus Cutty Sark, I had to make that video twice because I was so thoroughly confused. I was disgusted, and I got the same answer both times, and J&B won that one. So this time we have a winner, and this is Dewar's French Oak that's been finished in apple brandy. It's apple brandy cask finished. And so I was getting, I think, just a hint of the apple brandy on the finish. And that's what kind of pushed it over the edge. But man, that was incredibly difficult. All right, let's award the Dewars with a cocktail. So stand by and I'll make a cocktail and be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've got some Canada Dry Ginger Ale, a Tom Collins glass loaded with ice, and 1 slice of apple. So I'm going to measure out that's all left over from my glass. And that wasn't quite a full glass, so let's put just a little bit more. Dewar's in there. Top it off with some ginger ale. And just stir this around a little bit. Now this is the same cocktail I made when I reviewed the Dewar's French Oak. And my wife really liked this one. The apple blends well in here with the apple brandy notes. So here we are. And that 100% works. And it's like 94 degrees here in Fort Worth this July 9th. And so this is a great hot afternoon refreshing cocktail. All right, we have a winner, we have a cocktail. What is next? Next up on this channel, Blended Scotch Reviews, we'll do the single malt match number 4 between Glenallachie, which I think goes into the Dewar's, Glenallachie 13, and Bunnahabhain 12 that I used with Cutty Sark. The Cutty Sark went up against J&B, and I could not obtain a single malt from J&B, so the Bunnahabhain 12 was kind of left over. And then similarly here with the Ballantines, I could not obtain a list of the single malts that go in here, and so I had nothing for it. So we'll do the 2 leftover single malts, Bunnahabhain 12 and Glenallachie 13, head-to-head next time on Blended Scotch Reviews. This is Stab the Dragon, out here.